I couldn't feel my legs anymore. Not from the cold, though the desert night had dropped to near freezing. Not from exhaustion, though I'd been running for 6 days straight. I couldn't feel my legs because I'd stopped believing I had a future that required them. I was lying on the cracked floor of an abandoned gas station somewhere between Minyan and Cairo, my cheek pressed against concrete that smelled like motor oil and urine. My heart was still beating, but I'd already started dying. Not from the bullet wound in my side, though that was infected, leaking something yellow and foul. I was dying from the inside out, from the kind of hopelessness that turns your bones to sand. But let me freeze this moment. Let me tell you what I couldn't see yet, what was coming in exactly 47 hours. In 47 hours, I would be lying on an operating table in a Cairo hospital, hemorrhaging blood from internal injuries, my lips turning blue, my pulse dropping to almost nothing. And a doctor, a well-respected Egyptian doctor named Dr. Hassan, would look at my medical chart, see the small cross tattoo on my wrist that marked me as Coptic Christian, and he would say 5 words that would kill me. Let the Christian girl die. He would walk away. Just like that. Turn his back while I bled out on his table. My blood pressure would drop to 60/40. The machines would start screaming their alarm. The nurses would look at each other with terrified eyes, waiting for someone, anyone, to do something. But here's what Dr. Hassan didn't know. Here's what he couldn't know. There was a Muslim nurse in that room named Fatima. A woman who prayed 5 times a day, who fasted during Ramadan, who'd never spoken to a Christian in her life except to take their vital signs. And in the moment when I should have died, when every medical protocol said I was dying, Fatima would feel something she'd never felt before. A voice. Not audible. Not out loud. But clear. Clearer than her own thoughts. Put your hands on her wound. Now. And Fatima would do something that could cost her everything. She would step up to my dying body, place her trembling hands on my abdomen where the bleeding wouldn't stop, and she would whisper a name she'd been taught was just a prophet, nothing more. Yeshua. Jesus, if you are God, save her. And I would gasp. My eyes would fly open. The monitors would spike. And the bleeding, the hemorrhaging that 3 doctors couldn't stop would stop. Just stop. Like someone had flipped a switch inside my body. Dr. Hassan would come running back into that room, his face white with confusion, and he would stare at the monitors like they were lying to him. Because medically, clinically, scientifically, I should have been dead. But I'm not dead. I'm here. Talking to you. And Fatima, the Muslim nurse who let Jesus guide her hands, she's a follower of Christ now. She lost her job. Her family disowned her. But she tells everyone who'll listen, I felt him. I felt Jesus move through my hands. He saved that girl. Not me. Him. But to understand how I got to that operating table, how I ended up bleeding out while a doctor walked away, I need to take you back. Back to when I still had hope. Back to when I thought being a Christian in Egypt just meant facing discrimination, not death. Back to the day I was lying on that gas station floor with an infected bullet wound, realizing that my own country wanted me dead. It was September 14th, 2024. I was 23 years old. And I'd been running for my life for almost a week. The bullet had come 6 days earlier, not from a random mugging, not from a robbery. It came from a mob. 30 men, maybe 40, I couldn't count them all. They'd surrounded the small church in my village of El-Kosheh after Friday prayers, their faces twisted with rage, chanting Allahu Akbar and death to the infidels. They had stones, sticks, knives, and at least one of them had a gun. I'd been inside the church with my mother, my younger sister Miriam, and maybe 15 other believers. We were praying. We heard the shouting outside, the crash of rocks against the ancient walls, the splintering of wood as they broke down the side door. Father Stefanos told us to run, to escape through the back exit into the alley. I grabbed Miriam's hand. She was 16. She was shaking so hard I could barely hold onto her. We ran. The alley was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people. Trash bags and broken furniture blocked parts of the path. I could hear them behind us, the mob pouring through the church, screaming for blood. My mother was ahead of us, her black dress hiked up so she could run faster. She'd kicked off her shoes. That's when I heard the crack. Sharp. Loud. Unmistakable. Gunfire. I felt the impact before I felt the pain, like someone had punched me in the side, hard enough to knock the air from my lungs. I stumbled. Miriam screamed. My mother turned back, her eyes huge with horror. "Keep running," I gasped. "Don't stop." But the pain, God, the pain, it came crashing in like a wave of fire. I pressed my hand to my side and felt the hot, sticky wetness of blood soaking through my dress. I'd been shot. Somehow, I kept running. Adrenaline. Terror. The Holy Spirit. I don't know. But my legs kept moving even though my side was screaming. We made it out of the alley, across a main road, into the maze of side streets where we finally lost them. My mother took me to a Christian doctor she trusted, a man who operated out of a basement clinic because Christian doctors weren't welcome in the main hospitals. He dug the bullet out with shaking hands, no anesthesia except some pills that barely dulled the pain. He bandaged me up. He told me the bullet had missed my vital organs by centimeters. "You're lucky," he whispered. "God protected you." I didn't feel lucky. I felt hunted. Because the mob didn't stop. They came back the next day. And the next. They were looking for the Christians who'd escaped justice. The police did nothing. The government did nothing. In Egypt, if you're Coptic Christian, you're fair game. So I ran. I left my village. Left my mother and Miriam hiding with relatives. I headed toward Cairo, thinking maybe in a big city I could disappear, blend in, survive. But the wound got infected. Fever set in. And somewhere between Minyan and Cairo, on the 6th day of running, I collapsed in that abandoned gas station, unable to go any further. That's where I was when I stopped feeling my legs. When I stopped believing in tomorrow. I was dying. And I couldn't even feel angry about it anymore. Just empty. I whispered into the darkness, "Jesus, I can't keep running. I can't. If you want me to live, you're going to have to do something. Because I have nothing left." I didn't know it yet, but in 47 hours, Jesus was going to answer that prayer in the most impossible way. He was going to put his hands on a Muslim nurse's heart and whisper, "Save her." And she would. The bus to Cairo smelled like diesel fumes, sweat, and cheap perfume. I sat in the back corner, my bag clutched to my chest like a shield, watching every passenger who boarded. Was that man staring at me? Did that woman notice my cross? I'd tucked it under my shirt, but what if she saw? My heart hammered against my ribs for the entire 4-hour journey. I'd called my aunt in Cairo from the bus station, a brief, whispered conversation. "Auntie Mona, it's Marina. I'm coming to stay with you. I'll explain when I get there." She'd hesitated. Just for a second. But I heard it. The fear in that hesitation. "How long?" she asked carefully. "I don't know. Maybe a few days. Maybe." "Marina, is this about the trouble in El-Kosheh?" News traveled fast. Even 200 kilometers away, people knew. People were talking. Yes, I whispered. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, come. But be careful. Cairo isn't safe either. The bus pulled into Cairo's Torgaman station at 2 p.m. The city swallowed me immediately. Noise, crowds, honking horns, vendors shouting, the call to dur prayer echoing from a dozen mosques simultaneously. I'd been to Cairo before, but never alone. Never as a refugee in my own country. I caught a microbus to my aunt's neighborhood in Shubra, a district where many Coptic Christians lived, clustered together for safety. The buildings were tall and crowded, laundry hanging from every balcony, the streets narrow and choked with traffic. Auntie Mona lived on the 4th floor of a crumbling apartment building. She opened the door before I could knock. She must have been watching from the window. She pulled me inside quickly, glanced down the hallway to see if anyone had noticed, then shut the door and locked 3 separate deadbolts. She looked older than I remembered. More tired. Her hair was covered with a simple scarf, her face lined with worry. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. I told her about Sheikh Gamal, the flyer, the brick through our window, the death threat, the motorcycles hunting me in the desert. I told her about the taxi driver who abandoned me. About walking 15 kilometers in the dark. She listened in silence, her face growing more troubled with every sentence. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "You can't stay here." I stared at her. "What?" "Marina, I'm sorry. I want to help you. But if Sheikh Gamal's people are looking for you, if they find out you're here, they'll come. And I have 3 children in this apartment. 3 grandchildren downstairs. I can't," her voice broke. "I can't risk them. You understand, don't you? I can't." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. "Then where do I go?" I whispered. She wrung her hands. "There's a church. St. Mark's, in the old quarter. Father Boutros takes in people who are fleeing persecution. He has a small shelter." "Maybe." "A shelter," I repeated numbly. "You mean I'm homeless now?" "You're hunted," she said sharply. "There's a difference. Marina, this isn't about pride. This is about survival. Father Boutros can help you. He has connections. Maybe he can get you out of Egypt entirely. Out of Egypt. Leaving my country. Becoming a refugee for real." The room was spinning. I felt like I was watching my life collapse in real time, and I was powerless to stop it. Auntie Mona let me stay for one night, just one, hidden in a back room with the curtains drawn. She fed me koshari, rice and lentils that I could barely taste. I tried to call my parents. The phone rang and rang. No answer. I tried again an hour later. Still nothing. A sick feeling twisted in my stomach. Please God, let them be okay. Please let them just be hiding. Please. I prayed that night. On my knees on the thin carpet in that back room, I prayed like I'd never prayed before. Allah, please protect my family. Please make this stop. Please give me a way out. I'll do anything. I'll pray more, I'll fast, just please. I'm so scared. I'm so alone. Please answer me. Silence. The kind of silence that feels like abandonment. I'd been raised Christian, Coptic Orthodox, like most Christians in Egypt. We went to church every Sunday. We fasted before Easter. We prayed the liturgy. But if I'm honest, my faith had always been cultural. Traditional. Something I inherited, like my grandmother's recipes or my father's surname. But in that moment, kneeling on that carpet, I needed God to be real. I needed Him to show up. To speak. To do something. Nothing. Just the sound of Cairo traffic outside and my aunt's television playing quietly in the other room. I cried myself to sleep that night, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The next morning, Auntie Mona woke me before dawn. You need to leave before the neighbors wake up. Before anyone sees you. She pressed some money into my hand, not much, maybe enough for a week of food, and gave me directions to St. Mark's Church. Then she hugged me, tears in her eyes, and said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. May God protect you." And just like that, I was back on the streets. Cairo in early morning is a different city. Street sweepers, bakers pulling fresh bread from ovens, shop owners rolling up their metal shutters. The city waking up. I walked through it like a ghost, invisible and unmoored. St. Mark's Church was in a part of old Cairo I'd never been to, a maze of narrow alleys and ancient buildings, some dating back centuries. The church itself was small, hidden behind a high wall, its cross visible only if you looked up. I knocked on a side door. A young man answered, maybe 18, with kind eyes and a worn Bible tucked under his arm. "I need to see Father Boutros," I said. "My aunt sent me. I need help." He studied me for a moment, taking in my rumpled clothes, my exhausted face, the fear I couldn't hide. Then he nodded. "Wait here." Father Boutros came 10 minutes later. He was in his 60s, with a long gray beard and eyes that seemed to see straight through to your soul. He listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he sighed deeply. "You're the 5th person this month," he said quietly. "All from Upper Egypt. All fleeing the same thing: mobs, threats, violence. The situation is getting worse. Can you help me?" I asked, hating how desperate I sounded. "I can give you a place to sleep. Food. Safety, for a little while. But Marina," he looked at me seriously, "you can't stay in Egypt. Eventually, they'll find you. Sheikh Gamal has connections everywhere. Even here in Cairo. You need to leave the country." "And go where?" I asked, my voice rising. "I have no passport. No visa. No money. Where am I supposed to?" "There are ways," he said carefully. "People who help refugees cross into Libya, then try for Europe by boat. It's dangerous. Many don't make it. But some do. Libya. Smugglers. Boats crossing the Mediterranean. I'd seen the news reports, bodies washing up on beaches, overcrowded rafts sinking, refugees drowning by the hundreds. I can't," I whispered. "I can't do that. I need my parents. I need my family." Father Boutros's expression softened. "Let's take this one day at a time. First, you rest. You're safe here. Then we'll figure out next steps." The shelter was a converted basement beneath the church. 12 sleeping mats on the floor. A shared bathroom. A small kitchen. And 15 people, all Christians, all fleeing persecution from different parts of Egypt. There was a family from Asiat whose teenage son had been kidnapped and forcibly converted to Islam. There was an elderly couple from Sohag whose church had been burned down while they were inside. They'd barely escaped. There was a woman my age named Salma whose crime had been refusing a Muslim man's marriage proposal. We were all there for the same reason. In Egypt, being Christian meant being a target. I tried calling my parents again that night. And the next night. And the night after that. No answer. On the 4th day, I got through. But it wasn't my father who answered. It was my uncle. My father's brother. Uncle Cyril? It's Marina. Where's Papa? Where's Marina? His voice was strange. Flat. Where are you? Something in his tone made me hesitate. I'm safe. In Cairo. Where's my father? A long pause. Too long. Uncle Cyril, what happened? They came to the house, he said finally. 3 days ago. A mob. They were looking for you. When your father said you'd already left, his voice broke. They beat him, Marina. They beat him badly. He's in the hospital. Your mother and Miriam are in hiding with relatives in another village. The phone slipped from my hand. Someone caught it, held it up to my ear. Is he going to? He'll live, my uncle said. But Marina, listen to me. Don't come back. Don't call again. They're watching our phones. They're watching the family. If they trace this call. The line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, the room spinning around me. My father was in the hospital because of me. Because I'd run. Because I'd been marked. This was my fault. That night, I stopped praying. What was the point? I'd prayed for protection, my father got beaten. I'd prayed for safety, I was homeless in a church basement. I'd prayed for answers, all I got was silence. The other refugees prayed every night. I watched them kneeling, whispering, some crying, some singing hymns quietly. Father Boutros led evening prayers. Everyone participated. Except me. I lay on my mat, staring at the ceiling, feeling nothing. Not faith. Not hope. Not even fear anymore. Just emptiness. Salma noticed. One night, after prayers, she sat down beside me. You didn't pray tonight, she said gently. What's the point? I replied, my voice hollow. The point is he's listening. I laughed bitterly. Is he? Because from where I'm lying, he's pretty quiet. Salma was quiet for a moment. Then she said something strange. Have you tried praying to Jesus? Not just God. Not just formal prayers. But actually talking to Jesus. Like he's right here in the room. I frowned. We're Christians. We pray to God. Yes. But Jesus is God. And he's the one who lived this. Who was hunted. Betrayed. Alone. He knows what you're feeling. Maybe he's waiting for you to talk to him specifically. I wanted to dismiss it. It sounded too simple. Too evangelical. We were Orthodox, we had liturgy, ritual, tradition. We didn't just talk to Jesus like he was a friend. But that night, lying in the dark, with nothing left to lose, I tried it. I didn't kneel. Didn't close my eyes. I just whispered into the darkness. Jesus. If you're real. If you're listening. I need help. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. My father's hurt. My family's in danger. And I feel like I'm drowning. If you care, if you're really there, I need you to show me. Please. Nothing dramatic happened. No voice from heaven. No vision. No miracle. Just the same silence. But as I lay there, something shifted. Just slightly. Like a door opening a crack, not wide, not obvious, but enough to let in a sliver of light. I didn't know it yet, but that prayer, that desperate, angry, honest prayer had just changed everything. Because in 1 week, I was going to need Jesus to show up in a way I couldn't even imagine yet. I was going to need a miracle. And he was already preparing it. I lasted 5 days in the church shelter before everything fell apart. 5 days of lying on that mat, surrounded by whispered prayers I couldn't bring myself to join. 5 days of eating bread and lentils that tasted like ash in my mouth. 5 days of checking my phone obsessively, hoping for news from my family, terrified of what that news might be. On the 6th day, Father Boutros called me into his small office upstairs. He looked tired. More tired than usual. He gestured for me to sit, then closed the door carefully behind me. "Marina, I need to tell you something," he said. "And I need you to stay calm." My stomach dropped. "What is it?" "There are people asking about you." "Man." "They've been to 3 churches in this district in the past 2 days, showing a photo, asking if anyone's seen you." The room tilted. "How do they have my photo?" "I don't know. Maybe from your college. Maybe from social media. But they have it. And they're getting closer." I couldn't breathe. "How close?" "They came to a church 2 streets away yesterday. The priest there is a friend, he called to warn me." "Marina, I don't think you're safe here anymore. If they come to St. Mark's, if they find you," he didn't finish. "He didn't have to." "Where do I go?" I whispered. It was becoming my constant question. "Where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go?" I've made contact with a man who helps refugees get to Libya. His name is Abu Rashid. He's Muslim, but he's trustworthy. He does this for money, not ideology. He can get you across the border. From there, you'd try to reach Europe. Europe. The word felt impossibly far away. Like saying the moon. "How much does it cost?" Father Boutros looked uncomfortable. "More than you have. But the church has an emergency fund. We can cover it." "Marina, I know this is terrifying. I know it's not what you wanted. But staying in Egypt means death," I finished. "Staying means death." He nodded slowly. I thought about my father in a hospital bed. My mother and Miriam hiding in some village, afraid to use their own names. I thought about Sheikh Gamal's followers hunting me through Cairo like I was an animal. "When?" I asked. "Tomorrow night. Abu Rashid will pick you up at midnight. From there, it's a 3-day drive to the Libyan border through the desert. Then you're on your own. On my own. In Libya. In a country torn apart by civil war, controlled by militias and warlords, where refugees disappeared every day. But what choice did I have?" "Okay," I heard myself say. "Okay. I'll go." That last day in Cairo crawled by like a dying thing. I spent most of it sitting in the church sanctuary, staring at the icons on the walls. Christ Pantocrator, Christ the Almighty, staring down from the dome with those huge, eternal eyes. Mary holding baby Jesus, her face serene and sad at the same time, like she already knew what was coming for her son. I tried to pray. Really tried. But the words felt empty, mechanical. "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Nothing. Just words bouncing off the ceiling and falling dead on the floor. I gave up after the 3rd attempt. Salma found me there around sunset. She sat beside me quietly, didn't say anything for a while. Just sat. Her presence was somehow comforting in a way that words couldn't be. Finally, she spoke. "Father Boutros told me you're leaving tomorrow." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "I'm scared for you," she admitted. "Libya it's dangerous." especially for a woman alone. I know. But I also think, she paused, choosing her words carefully, I think maybe God is taking you somewhere. Not just away from danger, but towards something. Does that make sense? No, I said honestly. She smiled sadly. It will. Eventually. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small wooden cross on a leather cord. Simple. Roughly carved. Nothing fancy. A priest gave this to me when I first came to the shelter, she said. He told me, when you feel like you're walking through hell, hold on to this. Remember that Jesus walked through hell too. And he came out the other side. She pressed it into my hand. I want you to have it. Salma, I can't. You can. And you will. Marina, she looked at me intently, you're going to survive this. I don't know how I know, but I know. You're going to survive, and you're going to tell your story, and people are going to meet Jesus because of it. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But all I felt was the crushing weight of impossibility. Still, I took the cross. Hung it around my neck, tucked under my shirt where it wouldn't be visible. Thank you, I whispered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my mat, watching the ceiling, listening to the sounds of 14 other refugees breathing in the darkness. At 11 p.m., I got up. Gathered my few belongings, the bag I'd brought from El-Kosheh, now more worn and dirty. The money Father Boutros had given me. My ID card. My phone with a dying battery. And Salma's wooden cross against my chest. That was everything I owned in the world. Father Boutros met me at the side door at 11:45. He blessed me, made the sign of the cross on my forehead, and said words I'll never forget. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen, I whispered. Then he handed me a piece of paper with a phone number. When you reach Libya safely, if you reach Libya safely, call this number. It's a priest in Tripoli who helps refugees. Don't trust anyone else. Libya is full of predators. I understand. At exactly midnight, a battered Toyota pickup truck pulled up to the alley beside the church. The driver flashed his headlights twice. That's Abu Rashid, Father Boutros said. Go. Quickly. I ran to the truck, threw my bag in the back, and climbed into the passenger seat. Abu Rashid was in his 40s, heavy-set, with a thick mustache and eyes that had seen too much. He glanced at me, grunted, and pulled away from the church without a word. We drove in silence for 20 minutes, weaving through Cairo's late-night streets. I kept expecting him to say something, to explain the plan, to reassure me, something. But he just drove, his face unreadable. Finally, we reached the outskirts of the city. The buildings gave way to desert. The road became rougher. And that's when Abu Rashid spoke. You have the money? Father Boutros said he paid you already. He paid half. You give me the other half when we reach the border. I didn't have another half. Father Boutros hadn't mentioned. My blood ran cold. There's a misunderstanding, I said carefully. Father Boutros paid the full amount. He told me. I don't care what he told you, Abu Rashid said, his voice hardening. This is how it works. Half now. Half at delivery. If you don't have it, he shrugged, we'll figure something out. The way he said it made my skin crawl. What does that mean? I demanded, fear sharpening my voice. Figure what out? He didn't answer. Just kept driving. Oh God. Oh God, what have I done? What have I walked into? I thought about jumping out of the truck. But we were going 80 kilometers per hour down a dark desert highway. I'd break my neck. I thought about calling Father Boutros. But my phone was almost dead, and what could he do from Cairo? I was trapped. The truck drove on through the darkness, deeper and deeper into the desert, farther and farther from anything resembling safety. And that's when I started praying. Really praying. Not liturgy. Not formal words. Just desperation poured out into the darkness. God, I don't know if you're listening. I don't know if you care. But I'm about to be sold or worse, and I have nowhere else to turn. Everyone's abandoned me. Even my own family can't help me. So if you're real, if you're there, I need you. Not later. Not eventually. Right now. I need you right now. Nothing. Just the sound of the truck engine and Abu Rashid's heavy breathing beside me. I closed my eyes, tears slipping down my cheeks. And then I remembered what Salma said, talk to Jesus. I took a shaking breath. Jesus, I whispered. So quietly Abu Rashid couldn't hear. Jesus, I don't know how to do this. I've prayed to God my whole life. But Salma said you're different. She said you know what it's like to be hunted. To be alone. To be afraid. So I'm asking you specifically. Jesus. If you're really God. If you're really alive. If you really died for me specifically, then please. Please. Show up. Save me. I can't save myself. I have nothing. I am nothing. But if you're who they say you are, prove it. I need a miracle. I need you. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. Not religion. Not tradition. Not ritual. Just Jesus. Just me. Just desperation. I opened my eyes. The desert stretched out endlessly under a massive field of stars. The kind of sky you only see far from cities. Billions of stars. Like God had thrown diamonds across black velvet. And I felt something. Not a voice. Not a vision. Just a feeling. A presence. Like someone had stepped into the truck with me. Someone stronger than Abu Rashid. Stronger than Sheikh Gamal. Stronger than all my fear. A whisper in my spirit, so quiet I almost missed it. I'm here. I've always been here. And I'm not going to let you go. I caught my breath. Was that real? Did I imagine it? But something had shifted. I still didn't know what was going to happen. I was still trapped in a truck with a man who might sell me. Still fleeing into one of the most dangerous countries on earth. Still hunted. Still alone. But I didn't feel alone anymore. For the first time in 2 weeks, I didn't feel alone. I touched the wooden cross under my shirt. Closed my eyes. And whispered. Okay, Jesus. I'm trusting you. I don't know what that means. I don't know what happens next. But I'm trusting you. The truck drove on through the night. I didn't know it yet, but that prayer, that desperate, specific, personal prayer to Jesus had just activated something in the spiritual realm. Angels were moving. Heaven was watching. And in 6 days, when I was bleeding out on an operating table with a doctor walking away, Jesus was going to remember this moment. He was going to remember that I'd called his name. And he was going to answer. The sun came up over the desert like a fist of fire. I dozed off somewhere around 4 a.m., my head bouncing against the truck window, exhaustion finally overpowering fear. When I woke, we were deep in the western desert, nothing but sand and rock and heat shimmer for as far as I could see. No buildings. No other vehicles. No sign that humans had ever existed in this place. Abu Rashid was eating sunflower seeds, spitting the shells out the window. He glanced at me when I stirred. "We stop soon," he said. "Need to pick up 2 more passengers. Then we continue to the border." 2 more? My voice was hoarse. "Who?" "Other refugees. Like you. Everyone trying to reach Libya." He said it casually, like we were carpooling to work instead of fleeing for our lives. An hour later, we pulled off the main road onto a barely visible track that wound between rocky outcroppings. After 20 minutes of bone-jarring driving, we arrived at what looked like an abandoned construction site, a few concrete shells of buildings that had never been finished, rusted rebar sticking out like broken bones. 3 men stood waiting. Not 2. 3. And they weren't refugees. I could tell immediately from the way they stood, the way they looked at the truck. These were smugglers. Or worse. Abu Rashid parked and got out. I watched through the windshield as he greeted them, handshakes, conversation in Arabic too low for me to hear. One of the men gestured toward the truck. Toward me. Abu Rashid nodded. Ice flooded my veins. He was negotiating. He was selling me. The men started walking toward the truck. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed my bag, threw open the passenger door on the opposite side, and ran. Behind me, I heard shouting. "Hey! Stop! Come back here!" I didn't stop. I ran into the desert, my feet slipping in the sand, the morning sun already brutal on my skin. I had no idea where I was going. There was nowhere to go. Just endless sand and rock. But staying meant being handed over to those men, and I'd seen the look in their eyes. I'd rather die in the desert than face what they had planned. "You stupid girl." Abu Rashid's voice bellowed behind me. "There's nowhere to run. You'll be dead by sunset." He was right. I knew he was right. But my legs kept pumping, kept carrying me farther from the truck, from those men, from everything. I heard footsteps behind me. They were chasing me. I ran harder, my breath coming in ragged gasps, sweat already pouring down my face. The sand was deep in places, like running through water. My bag bounced against my side. Salma's cross burned hot against my chest from the sun. "Jesus!" I screamed it into the desert. "Jesus, help me. Please." I crested a small rise, and on the other side, impossibly, I saw it. A road. A real road. Paved. And on that road, maybe 500 meters away, a car was approaching. Hope exploded in my chest. I changed direction, angling toward the road, waving my arms frantically. "Help! Please! Help!" The car was a white sedan. It was slowing down. The driver had seen me. Behind me, Abu Rashid and the other men crested the rise. They saw the car too. "No!" Abu Rashid shouted. "Don't you dare!" I reached the road just as the sedan pulled to a stop. The driver's window rolled down. A woman looked out, middle-aged, wearing a hijab, eyes wide with shock. "Please!" I gasped, stumbling to her window. "Please help me. Those men, they're trying to." "Get in," she said immediately, unlocking the doors. "Get in now." I threw open the back door, dove inside, slammed it shut. "Drive. Please drive." She floored it. Through the back window, I watched Abu Rashid and the men reach the road, shouting, waving their arms. But they had no vehicle. They could only stand there, getting smaller and smaller as we sped away. I collapsed against the back seat, my whole body shaking, sobs tearing out of my throat. I'd escaped. Somehow. Impossibly. I'd escaped. The woman kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Who were those men? Smuggler, I managed between gasps. He was supposed to take me to Libya. But he was going to sell me. I think. Or worse. She cursed softly in Arabic. You're lucky I came this way. This road, almost nobody uses it. I only took it because my GPS routed me around an accident on the main highway. Lucky. Or something else. Where are you going? I asked. Siwa. But I can take you to the next town. There's a police station. No! I said too sharply. Then, softer, no police. Please. They'll send me back to my village. And if I go back, I'll die. She was quiet for a moment, studying me in the mirror. Then, you're Christian. It wasn't a question. She'd seen the cross around my neck. It had slipped out when I was running. I tensed, waiting for her reaction. Waiting for her to pull over, to tell me to get out, to refuse to help an infidel. Instead, she said, my sister is Christian. She converted 5 years ago. My family disowned her. But she's happy. Happier than she ever was before. A pause. What's your name? Marina. I'm Layla. And Marina, her eyes met mine in the mirror. I don't know what you're running from, but I believe God sent me to this road today. For you. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Thank you. Thank you so much. She drove for 3 hours, all the way to a town called Marsa Matruh on the Mediterranean coast. She bought me food, falafel sandwiches and bottled water, and gave me money. More money than I'd lost to Abu Rashid. There's a bus from here to Alexandria, she said. From Alexandria, you have options. Maybe you can find a church. Maybe you can find a way out of Egypt. Why are you helping me? I asked. You don't even know me. Layla smiled sadly. Because my sister needed help once, and nobody gave it to her. Because I think about that every day. And because she touched her chest, over her heart, something told me to help you. A feeling. A voice. I don't know. But I'm listening to it. The Holy Spirit, I thought. That's what Christians would call it. The Holy Spirit speaking to a Muslim woman, telling her to save me. Jesus was keeping his promise. I'm here. I'm not going to let you go. I took the bus to Alexandria that afternoon. Alexandria, Egypt's second-largest city, ancient and sprawling, half Mediterranean charm and half modern chaos. I'd never been there before. But Father Boutros had mentioned there were churches that helped refugees. I just had to find them. I spent 2 days in Alexandria, sleeping in the women's section of a budget hostel, eating street food, trying to figure out what to do next. I called the number Father Boutros had given me, the priest in Libya, but the line was disconnected. That escape route was closed. On the 3rd day, I was walking through the old quarter, past fruit vendors and spice shops, when I felt it. Pain. Sharp. Sudden. Low in my abdomen. I stopped walking, pressed my hand to my side. Probably just hunger. I hadn't eaten much. But the pain didn't stop. It got worse. By evening, I was doubled over in the hostel bathroom, sweating, nauseous, the pain like a hot knife twisting in my gut. The hostel manager, a kind older woman, found me on the floor. Hospital, she said firmly. Now. I'm calling an ambulance. I can't afford. Doesn't matter. You need a hospital. Something's wrong. The ambulance took me to Alexandria University Hospital. The emergency room was chaos, patients on gurneys in hallways, nurses running, doctors shouting orders. But I was triaged quickly because I was young and clearly in severe pain. A doctor examined me, a woman, thankfully, Dr. Noor. She pressed on my abdomen. I screamed. Appendicitis, she said immediately. We need to operate. Tonight. I don't have money, I whispered. I don't have insurance. We'll figure it out. Right now, if we don't operate, your appendix will rupture. That means sepsis. That means death. Do you understand? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. They prepped me for surgery within an hour. I was terrified. I'd never had surgery before, never been in a hospital as a patient. They gave me forms to sign. They asked about family. I lied, said my parents were in Cairo, they'd come tomorrow. They wheeled me into the operating room. The lights were blinding. Doctors and nurses moved around me in blue scrubs, speaking medical terms I didn't understand. An anesthesiologist put a mask over my face. Count backward from 10. 10, 9, 8. The world went black. I woke up in agony. Worse agony than before. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. I tried to speak, but my throat was raw from the breathing tube. A nurse appeared above me. Marina? Can you hear me? You're out of surgery. Everything went. She stopped. Looked at something. Her face changed. Doctor, she called urgently. Doctor. Dr. Noor rushed over. Pulled back the blanket covering me. I couldn't see what she was seeing, but I heard her curse. She's bleeding. Internal bleeding. Something tore. Get her back into surgery now. No. No, not again. I couldn't go through this again. But I was too weak to fight. They wheeled me back into the OR. The lights. The masks. The terror. Count backward from 10. 10, 9. Black. When I woke the second time, I was in a different room. Intensive care. Machines beeping around me. Tubes in my arms. An oxygen mask on my face. And standing over me, looking at my chart with an expression I'll never forget, was a doctor I hadn't seen before. Dr. Hassan. He was reading my chart. His eyes flicked to the small cross tattoo on my wrist, the one my grandmother had taken me to get when I was 16, a tiny Coptic cross, barely visible unless you looked closely. His expression changed. Hardened. He looked at me. I looked at him. And I saw it in his eyes, hatred. He set down my chart and walked out of the room. A few minutes later, I heard voices outside. Arguing. Need another surgery to stop the bleeding. Not my problem. She's dying, Dr. Hassan. I said it's not my problem. Let someone else handle it. The voices faded. A nurse came in, young, maybe my age, wearing a hijab. Her name tag said Fatima. She checked my vitals, adjusted my her hands shaking slightly. Am I going to die? I whispered through the oxygen mask. She looked at me. And I saw the answer in her eyes before she spoke. I don't know, she said honestly. Dr. Hassan was supposed to operate on you. But he refused. He's letting you. She couldn't finish the sentence. Because I'm Christian, I said. She didn't deny it. She just looked away. I closed my eyes. So this was how it ended. Not from Sheikh Gamal's mob. Not in the desert. Not in Abu Rashid's truck. But here. In a hospital. Bleeding internally while a doctor who'd sworn an oath to save lives walked away because I believed in Jesus. The irony was almost funny. Almost. I felt myself slipping. The beeping of the machines was getting slower. Fainter. My body was shutting down. I whispered into the oxygen mask, so quietly no one could hear except him. Jesus. You brought me this far. Through the mob. Through the desert. Through Abu Rashid. You sent Layla. You got me here. Was it just to die alone? Was all of that just to end up here? No answer. Just the slowing beep of my heart monitor. I trusted you, I whispered, and now I was crying, hot tears sliding into my ears. I called your name. You said you wouldn't let me go. You promised. The machines were screaming now. Alarms going off. My blood pressure was crashing. Nurses rushed in. Fatima was among them. They were shouting for Dr. Hassan. He didn't come. Someone do something. Fatima cried. We can't. We need a doctor's authorization. Then get another doctor. There is no other doctor on duty. It's just Hassan, and he refused. I could hear them, but they sounded far away. I was floating. The pain was fading. Everything was fading. This was it. This was death. Jesus, I breathed one last time. Into your hands. And then. Fatima's hands were on my abdomen. I felt the pressure. Felt the warmth of her palms through the thin hospital gown. And I heard her voice, shaking, terrified, but speaking. Yeshua. Isa. Jesus. I don't know if you're God. I don't know if you're just a prophet. But this girl, she believes in you. She's dying. And I can't let her die. So if you're real, if you can hear me, if you can do something, please. Save her. I don't know how. But please. Heat. Sudden, intense heat radiating from Fatima's hands. My eyes flew open. The pain, the crushing, tearing pain in my abdomen, it was stopping. The bleeding, I could feel it, it was slowing. Stopping. The monitor alarms changed pitch. My blood pressure was rising. Stabilizing. Fatima gasped. Jerked her hands back like she'd been burned. What was? The other nurses were staring at the monitors in shock. She's stabilizing, one whispered. How is she stabilizing? She was coding. Check the wound site. They pulled back my gown. Examined my abdomen where the internal bleeding had been. Silence. The bleeding stopped, a nurse said, her voice filled with disbelief. It just stopped. That's not medically possible. She needed surgery. She needed. It stopped, Fatima repeated, staring at her own hands like they belonged to someone else. Dr. Hassan came running in, finally responding to the commotion. What's going on? I thought she was. He stopped. Looked at the monitors. Looked at me, awake, breathing, alive. How? He stammered. What did you do? Nothing, the head nurse said, her eyes wide. The bleeding just stopped. On its own. That's impossible. I know. Dr. Hassan stared at me. Then at Fatima. then back at me. And for the first time, his expression wasn't hatred. It was fear. "Run full labs," he said quietly. "Monitor her through the night. I'll check on her in the morning." He left quickly, like he couldn't get out of the room fast enough. The other nurses gradually dispersed, whispering to each other, glancing back at me with confusion and something that looked like awe. Fatima stayed. She stood beside my bed, staring at her hands, then at me, then at her hands again. "What just happened?" she whispered. I reached out weakly, took her hand. "Jesus," I said. "Jesus happened. But I'm Muslim." "I'm not, I don't." "He doesn't care," I said, and I was crying again, but these were different tears. Not despair. Wonder. Gratitude. "He used your hands. Muslim hands. To save a Christian life. Because he loves you, Fatima. He loves you just as much as he loves me." She was crying now too. I felt him. Marina, I felt him. It was like electricity and warmth and peace all at once, moving through my hands. I didn't know what to do. I just prayed, Anne. And he answered. I finished. He answered your prayer. We sat there in that ICU room, a Muslim nurse and a Christian refugee, holding hands and crying, while the machines beeped steadily around us. My heart rate, normal. Blood pressure, normal. I should have been dead. I wasn't. Because Jesus had guided a Muslim nurse's hands. And he had kept his promise. "I'm here. I'm not going to let you go." Fatima stayed with me all night. She wasn't supposed to. Her shift ended at 11 p.m. But she pulled a chair up beside my bed and refused to leave, even when the night supervisor told her to go home. "I need to watch her," Fatima said. "I need to make sure, I just need to stay." What she really meant was, I need to understand what just happened. So did I. I kept replaying it in my mind the moment her hands touched my abdomen, the heat, the sudden stopping of pain that no medical intervention had been able to achieve. The impossible becoming possible. Around 2 a.m., when the ICU was quiet except for the hum of machines and the occasional footsteps of nurses making rounds, Fatima finally spoke. "Tell me about him," she said quietly. "About Jesus. Not what the Quran says. Not what imams say. What you know. From your experience." I was still weak, my voice barely above a whisper, but I told her. I told her everything: the mob in El-Kosheh, the bullet wound, running through the desert, Abu Rashid's betrayal, Layla on that impossible road. Every moment where I should have died but didn't. Every moment where help appeared from nowhere. "It's like he's been following me," I said. "Protecting me. Even when I didn't fully believe. Even when I was angry at him. He never left." Fatima was silent for a long time, processing. "Then, in Islam, we're taught that Jesus was a great prophet. But just a prophet. A man. Not God. Not divine." But Marina, her voice cracked, "What I felt tonight wasn't a prophet. Prophets don't do that. What moved through my hands was God," I finished gently. "What you felt was God himself. Because Jesus is God. That's what Christians believe. That's what I know now. Not from church teachings or tradition. But because I've experienced him. And so have you." She put her face in her hands. "My family will disown me if I even think these things. My father, my brothers, they're devout. If they knew I prayed to Jesus, if they knew I'm even considering." "I know," I said. "Trust me, I know." My whole life fell apart because of Jesus. But Fatima, look at me. I'm alive. I shouldn't be alive. I should be dead in El-Kosheh, or dead in the desert, or dead on this table 3 hours ago. But I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because he wouldn't let me go. Even when a doctor walked away. Even when it was medically impossible. He used your hands to save me. Doesn't that tell you something? Tears slipped between her fingers. It tells me everything. And it terrifies me. I know, I whispered. Believe me. I know. By morning, word had spread through the hospital. I didn't know how. Maybe the nurses who'd witnessed what happened. Maybe Fatima told someone. Maybe it was just the way hospitals are, nothing stays secret for long. But by 8 a.m., there were doctors and nurses finding excuses to walk past my room, to glance inside, to look at the girl who should have died but didn't. Dr. Hassan came by at 9 a.m. for rounds. He examined my chart in silence, his face carefully neutral. Then he examined my abdomen, pressed where the wound was, where the bleeding had been. Nothing. No pain. No swelling. No signs of internal hemorrhaging. Impossible, he muttered under his breath. It's possible with God, I said quietly. His eyes snapped to mine. Don't start with your missionary talk. It was a fluke. A spontaneous clotting. Rare, but it happens. Does it? I asked. You're a doctor. You said I needed immediate surgery or I'd die. You said it was impossible for the bleeding to stop on its own. So which is it? Impossible, or a fluke? His jaw tightened. You're stable now. We'll keep you for observation for 2 more days, then discharge you. He turned to leave. Why did you walk away? I asked. He stopped. Didn't turn around. Why did you see my cross and decide I wasn't worth saving? Do you do that with all Christian patients? Or just the ones who are too young and poor to sue you? Slowly, he turned back. His face was red with anger or maybe shame. You people come into our country, our hospitals, and you expect. Your country? I interrupted. Dr. Hassan, my family has been in Egypt for over 1,000 years. We're not foreigners. We're not invaders. We're Egyptians. Just like you. The only difference is what we believe about God. And you were willing to let me die over that difference. He opened his mouth. Closed it. No words came. Jesus saved my life last night, I said. Not medicine. Not you. Him. And he did it through a Muslim nurse who was brave enough to pray to him. What does that tell you? About him? About your assumptions? Dr. Hassan stared at me for a long moment. Then, without another word, he walked out. But I saw it. Just for a second before he left. His hands were shaking. Later that morning, Fatima came to see me during her break. She looked exhausted. She'd gone home for a few hours, showered, and come back for her shift. But there was something different in her eyes. A light. A certainty. I talked to my cousin last night, she said, sitting on the edge of my bed. The one who converted to Christianity 5 years ago. My family doesn't speak to her anymore, but I kept her number. I called her at 4 a.m. I told her what happened. What did she say? She laughed. Not in a mean way. In a joyful way. She said, "Welcome to the family, Fatima. Jesus has been pursuing you your whole life. Now you know it." Fatima smiled through tears. She prayed with me. Over the phone. And Marina, I did it. I asked Jesus to forgive my sins, to come into my life, to be my Lord. I don't fully understand what that means yet. I don't know what happens next. But I know what I felt last night was real. And I can't unknow that. Joy flooded through me, so powerful I started crying. Fatima. Fatima. Do you know what this means? You're saved. You're a sister now. I'm terrified, she admitted. I'm happy and terrified at the same time. My family. I know. But you're not alone. You have Jesus. And you have me. And you have your cousin. And there's a whole family of believers who will. The door burst open. We both jumped. 3 nurses rushed in, their faces pale with shock. Behind them, more staff members were gathering in the hallway, murmuring, pointing. Marina, one of the nurses, said breathlessly, "You need to come see this. Now. If you can walk." "See what?" "Just come. Please." Fatima helped me out of bed. I was still weak, still in a hospital gown, but I could walk. We followed the nurses down the hallway, my 4-pole rolling beside me. They led us to the ICU waiting room. It was packed. Not with patients' families. With hospital staff. Doctors, nurses, orderlies, administrative staff. Maybe 30 people, all crowded into the small room, all staring at something on the wall-mounted television. "What's going on?" I asked. Someone shushed me. "Watch." On the television, a news program was playing. Local Cairo news. And there, on the screen, was a familiar face. Sheikh Gamal Abd El-Aziz. My blood went cold. He was giving some kind of statement to reporters. The volume was low, but someone turned it up. "Tragic accident," Sheikh Gamal was saying, his face grave. "A terrible loss for our community. The young men who died were passionate believers, strong in their faith." "Died? What happened?" I whispered to the nurse beside me. "Keep watching," she said. The news report cut to footage of a burned-out vehicle. A pickup truck, completely destroyed, blackened metal and ash. The caption at the bottom of the screen read, "3 dead in mysterious desert fire, victims identified as local religious activists." The reporter's voice narrated, "Discovered early this morning by highway patrol. The 3 men appear to have died from burns sustained when their vehicle caught fire. Investigators say there's no obvious cause, no collision, no mechanical failure that would explain such a catastrophic fire. Witnesses report seeing a strange light in the desert around the time of the incident, though this has not been confirmed." The camera panned across the wreckage. And I saw it. The remains of a logo on the truck door. Still partially visible despite the fire damage. I'd seen that logo before. It was the same truck. The same pickup truck. Abu Rashid's truck. The room tilted. I couldn't finish the sentence. "You recognize it?" Fatima asked. I nodded, unable to speak. Abu Rashid. Dead. The 2 men who'd been waiting at that abandoned construction site. Dead. All 3 of them, burned alive in the same truck I'd escaped from 3 days ago. "The official investigation is ongoing," the reporter continued, "but locals are calling it an act of God. Some even claim." The news program cut to interview footage. An elderly man with a weathered face, a Bedouin from his clothing, speaking in thickly accented Arabic. "I saw it," he insisted. "I was tending my goats maybe 2 kilometers away. I saw fire fall from the sky. Like in the old stories. Like the judgment of Allah or the Christian God, who knows? Fire came down and consumed that truck. The men inside didn't even have time to get out. They burned. The truck burned. But nothing else burned. Not the sand. Not the rocks. Just the truck. That's not natural. That's divine. The reporter looked skeptical but moved on. The program shifted to other news. Someone turned off the television. The room was silent. Everyone was looking at me. You knew them, one of the doctors said. It wasn't a question. They tried to kidnap me, I said quietly. 3 days ago. They were going to, I don't even know what they were going to do. But I escaped. And now they're dead, Fatima finished. Marina. Do you understand what this means? I looked at her. At the faces surrounding me. Doctors. Nurses. Muslims and Christians and probably some who believed in neither. All staring at me like I was something otherworldly. God protected you, Fatima said. Not just here in the hospital. Not just from the internal bleeding. He's been protecting you this whole time. Those men who tried to hurt you, he judged them. He stopped them from ever hurting anyone else. Fire from heaven, someone whispered. Like in the Bible. Sodom and Gomorrah. Elijah and the prophets of Baal. That's not possible, Dr. Hassan's voice cut through the murmurs. He'd appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. There's a rational explanation. Lightning strike. Faulty fuel line. Something. The investigators said there was no obvious cause, a nurse pointed out. Then they didn't investigate thoroughly enough. Or, I said quietly, meeting his eyes, God was protecting me. Just like he saved me on your operating table when you walked away. Just like he's been saving me over and over again. Because I called on his name. Because I belong to him. And he doesn't let his children go. The room was utterly silent. Dr. Hassan stared at me. His face cycled through emotions, anger, fear, disbelief, and finally something that might have been awe. This is madness, he muttered. But his voice lacked conviction. No, Fatima said, stepping forward. This is God. This is Jesus. And he's real, Dr. Hassan. I felt him last night. I felt him move through my hands. These people saw Marina dying and then saw her live. And now the men who tried to hurt her are dead by fire from heaven. How much evidence do you need? I need, Dr. Hassan stammered. I need to think. I need to. He left. Practically fled. But 12 other people remained in that waiting room. And over the next hour, 3 of them, 2 nurses and 1 young doctor, pulled me aside privately and asked the same question. How do I meet this Jesus? How do I get what you have? I told them. With Fatima beside me, I told them about Jesus. About his death for our sins. About his resurrection. About calling on his name. About how he saves anyone who asks, Muslim, Christian, atheist, doesn't matter. He loves everyone. He died for everyone. And all 3 of them prayed. Right there in the hospital. They prayed to accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. 3 Muslims. 3 brand new followers of Christ. Because they'd witnessed a miracle. Because they'd seen God move. Because they couldn't deny what their own eyes had shown them. 2 days later, the hospital discharged me. I had nowhere to go. No money for a hotel. No family to contact. But Fatima made a decision that would change both our lives. You're coming home with me, she said. Fatima, your family doesn't know yet. And when they find out, there will be consequences. But Marina, I can't let you live on the streets. Not after what Jesus did to save you. If he can use my hands to heal you, I can use my home to shelter you. So I went home with Fatima. She lived with her parents and 2 younger brothers in a modest apartment in a working-class neighborhood of Alexandria. She told them I was a colleague from the hospital who needed a place to stay temporarily. They welcomed me with typical Egyptian hospitality: food, tea, a place to sleep. I stayed for 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, Fatima and I studied the Bible together. Her cousin brought us a copy, a risk, since Fatima's family would have destroyed it if they'd found it. We read late at night, whispering in Fatima's room, discovering Jesus through the Gospels. And during those 2 weeks, something else happened. Fatima's mother noticed the change in her daughter. The peace. The joy. The way Fatima prayed differently now, not the ritual prayers toward Mecca 5 times a day, but spontaneous prayers throughout the day, talking to Jesus like he was right there in the room. One night, Fatima's mother came to her room after everyone else was asleep. "You've converted," she said simply. "Haven't you?" Fatima looked at me, then back at her mother. And with incredible courage, she said, "Yes, Mama. I believe in Jesus. I believe he's the Son of God. And I can't unknow that." I braced for the explosion. For the screaming. For violence. Instead, Fatima's mother sat down on the bed. And she started crying. "I knew it," she whispered. "I saw it in your eyes. The same light I saw in your cousin's eyes 5 years ago before we cut her off." She looked up, tears streaming down her face. "Tell me. Tell me what happened. Tell me why you'd risk everything for this." So Fatima told her. About me. About the hospital. About the bleeding that stopped when she prayed to Jesus. About the fire that fell from heaven on the men who'd tried to hurt me. About feeling God move through her hands. And Fatima's mother listened. And when Fatima finished, her mother said 6 words I'll never forget. "I want to meet him too." That night, in a small bedroom in Alexandria, a mother and daughter prayed together. And both met Jesus. Both were saved. Both were transformed. The cost was immediate. When Fatima's father found out 2 days later, when he saw his wife and daughter reading a Bible together, he exploded. Shouting. Accusations. Threats. He threw Fatima out of the house. Told her never to come back. Said she was dead to him. Fatima's mother made a choice. She packed a bag and left with her daughter. And both of them came to me. 3 Christian women. No home. No money. No plan. But we had Jesus. And somehow, that was enough. A local church heard about us. Word spreads fast in Christian communities. They gave us a small apartment. Jobs. Support. A new family. And Fatima started telling her story. At churches. In refugee centers. Anywhere people would listen. "I was Muslim," she would say. "I prayed 5 times a day. I fasted during Ramadan. And I was empty. But when I prayed to Jesus, when I felt him move through my hands to save Marina's life, I found what I'd been searching for my whole life. I found God. Not religion. God." People met Jesus through her testimony. Dozens of people. Muslims and atheists and cultural Christians who'd never really believed. They met Jesus because Fatima had the courage to tell them what she'd experienced. And I told my story too. About the mob. The bullet. The desert. Abu Rashid. The doctor who walked away. The Muslim nurse who prayed. The fire from heaven. Every detail. Every miracle. Because people needed to know, Jesus is not dead. He's alive. And he's still doing miracles. Still saving people. Still showing up when you call his name. Not just in Bible times. Now. The first person to verify my story wasn't a Christian. It was Dr. Hassan. 3 weeks after my discharge from the hospital, a reporter from a Christian news organization in Cairo contacted Alexandria University Hospital. They'd heard rumors about a miracle, a patient who'd survived impossible internal bleeding after a Muslim nurse prayed to Jesus. They wanted to investigate. The hospital administration initially refused comment. Too controversial. Too risky. But the reporter was persistent. And eventually, they got through to Dr. Hassan. I didn't know this was happening until Fatima called me, her voice shaking with excitement. Marina, turn on the computer. Go to Christian News Egypt's website. Now. I pulled up the site on the old laptop the church had donated to us. And there, on the front page, was a video interview. With Dr. Hassan. My hands trembled as I clicked play. The reporter, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, sat across from Dr. Hassan in what looked like a coffee shop. He looked uncomfortable, kept glancing at the camera like he wanted to bolt. Dr. Hassan, thank you for agreeing to speak with us, the reporter began. Can you tell us, in your own words, what happened on the night of September 24th? He was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice low and measured. I was the attending physician when Marina Youssef was brought in with post-operative complications. Severe internal hemorrhaging. Her blood pressure was dropping rapidly. She needed immediate surgical intervention. He paused. I refused to provide it. Why? Another long pause. Because she was Christian. I saw the cross tattoo on her wrist. And I made a decision that violated every oath I took as a physician. I walked away. I decided to let her die. The reporter's expression remained neutral, but I could hear the shock in her voice. What happened next? A nurse named Fatima Abd El-Hamid, a Muslim woman, she placed her hands on the patient's abdomen and prayed. To Jesus. I heard her. I was standing outside the room. His hands clenched on the coffee cup in front of him. And the bleeding stopped. Spontaneously. Completely. Within 2 minutes, the patient's vital signs stabilized. No medical intervention. No surgery. Just prayer. Is that medically possible? No. The word came out flat. Definitive. What I witnessed was not medically possible. I've been a surgeon for 17 years. I know what spontaneous hemorrhage looks like. I know what it takes to stop it. What happened in that ICU room cannot be explained by medical science. What do you think happened? Dr. Hassan looked directly into the camera. I think he stopped, struggled with the words, I think God saved that girl's life. Despite me. Maybe even to prove a point to me. I don't know. But I can't explain it any other way. And believe me, I've tried. Has this experience changed you? He laughed bitterly. It's destroyed me. In the best way possible. I can't sleep. I can't pray at the mosque anymore, the words feel empty. I keep thinking about that girl's question, why did you walk away? And I don't have a good answer. I thought I was defending Islam. But what I was really doing was playing God. Deciding who deserved life and who didn't based on what they believed. He looked down at his hands. I'm not sure what I believe anymore. But I know one thing: what happened that night was real. And it came from Jesus. Not from me. Not from medicine. From him. The interview ended. I sat staring at the screen, tears pouring down my face. Dr. Hassan, the man who'd tried to kill me through negligence, had just testified to the miracle on national Christian media. Had just admitted his hatred, his failure, and had pointed to Jesus as the source of my healing. Within 24 hours, the video had been shared thousands of times. Within a week, it had gone viral throughout Egypt's Christian community and beyond. And 3 days after the interview aired, Dr. Hassan called the church where Fatima and I were staying. He wanted to meet with me. We met at a small cafe near the church. Fatima came with me. I wasn't comfortable meeting him alone. He was already there when we arrived, sitting in the back corner, a cup of untouched coffee in front of him. He stood when he saw me. "Marina. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted. We sat. Awkward silence stretched between us. Finally, he spoke. "I need to say this. I'm sorry. I'm profoundly, deeply sorry for what I did. For what I didn't do. You were dying and I walked away. I let my prejudice, my hatred override my duty as a doctor and as a human being. I nearly murdered you. And I need you to know that I will carry that for the rest of my life." His eyes were red. He'd been crying recently. "Why did you do the interview?" I asked. "Because people need to know what Jesus did. Not what I did, I'm irrelevant. But what he did. Marina, I've spent the last 3 weeks trying to rationalize what happened. Trying to find a medical explanation. Consulting with colleagues. Reading research papers. And there is no explanation. What happened to you was supernatural. And I can't stay silent about that. I can't pretend it didn't happen just because it destroys my worldview." "What was your worldview?" Fatima asked quietly. "That Christians were ignorant. Misguided. That they corrupted the message of Jesus Isa and turned him into something he never claimed to be. That Islam had the truth and Christianity was just a mistaken offshoot." He laughed without humor. "But then I saw a Muslim nurse pray to Jesus and watched him heal someone through her hands. And I realized, maybe I'm the one who's mistaken." "Are you saying you believe now?" I asked carefully. "That Jesus is who Christians say he is?" "I'm saying I can't not believe. I saw it. I witnessed it. And his voice broke, I need to know him. The Jesus who saved you despite my hatred. The Jesus who had mercy on you when I didn't. I need to know how to reach him. How to ask for his forgiveness. Because if he can forgive what I did, then maybe there's hope for me." Fatima and I looked at each other. And right there in that cafe, we told Dr. Hassan about Jesus. About the cross. About redemption. About how Jesus specializes in transforming the worst of people: murderers, persecutors, hateful men who think they're serving God by killing his followers. Like Paul, Fatima said. He murdered Christians. He thought he was serving God. And Jesus appeared to him on a road and changed everything. "Dr. Hassan, Jesus can do the same for you." He listened. He asked questions. He wrestled with doctrine and doubt and fear. And after 2 hours, Dr. Hassan bowed his head and prayed the most broken, beautiful prayer I've ever heard. "Jesus, I don't know how to do this. I don't know the right words. But I know what I saw. I know you're real. I know you saved Marina when I tried to kill her. And I know I'm a sinner. I know I'm guilty. I know I deserve nothing from you. But if you can forgive me, if you can save even someone like me, I'm asking. I'm here. I surrender. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose from the dead. Save me. Please. Save me. When he looked up, his face was wet with tears. But there was something new in his eyes. Peace. The same peace I'd seen in Fatima's eyes. In her mother's eyes. The peace that comes from meeting Jesus. The conversions spread like wildfire after that. Dr. Hassan's story became national news. A respected Muslim surgeon admits to nearly killing a Christian patient, then converts to Christianity after witnessing a miracle. The backlash was immediate and vicious. He lost his position at the hospital. Received death threats. Had to move to a safe house for his own protection. But he didn't recant. Didn't back down. Instead, he started appearing on Christian television programs, radio shows, podcasts, anywhere that would have him. Telling his story. Explaining the medical impossibility of what he'd witnessed. Testifying to the reality of Jesus. And people responded. Within 2 months, 17 medical professionals in Alexandria, doctors, nurses, technicians, reached out to local churches saying they wanted to know more about Jesus because of what had happened to me. Because Dr. Hassan's testimony had given them permission to question. To wonder. To consider that maybe the miracles in the Bible weren't just ancient history. But the most unexpected conversion came from someone I never thought I'd see again. Layla. The woman who'd picked me up on that desert road when I was fleeing from Abu Rashid. The Muslim woman who'd driven me to safety, given me money, told me she believed God had sent her to that road for me. She found me through Fatima's cousin. Apparently there's a network of underground believers in Egypt who all know each other somehow. She called the church. Asked to meet me. We met at the same cafe where I'd met Dr. Hassan. Layla looked different than I remembered. Thinner. Tired. But there was an intensity in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Marina, she said when she saw me, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. About that day I picked you up. I told myself it was just coincidence. Just good timing. But then I started hearing stories. About what happened in Alexandria. About the doctor. About the Muslim nurse. About the fire that fell from heaven on the men who'd tried to hurt you. She leaned forward. Is it true? All of it? Yes, I said simply. Then tell me. Tell me everything. Because I need to understand what I was part of that day. So I told her. The full story. From El-Kosheh to this cafe. Every miracle. Every narrow escape. Every moment when Jesus had shown up impossibly. She listened without interrupting. And when I finished, she was crying. I felt him, she whispered. That day in my car. I felt someone tell me to drive on that road. To help you. I thought it was just intuition. Just my conscience. But it was him, wasn't it? It was Jesus speaking to me. Telling me to save you. Yes. Why would he do that? I'm Muslim. I didn't even believe he was God. Why would he speak to me? Because he loves you, I said. Because he wants you to know him. Because he's been pursuing you your whole life, Layla. And that day on that road, he gave you a role in his miracle. He let you participate in saving my life. I'm giving you evidence. Multiple witnesses. Professional testimony. Documented impossibilities. At what point does the evidence become too overwhelming to dismiss? I'm not asking you to believe in religion. I'm asking you to investigate Jesus. Read the Gospels. Look at the historical evidence for his resurrection. Ask him yourself if he's real. What do you have to lose? If I'm wrong, you wasted a prayer. If I'm right, you gain everything. If you're suffering, if you're in persecution, in danger, in despair, listen to me. You are not alone. Jesus is with you. Even when you can't feel him. Even when it looks like he's silent. He's there. He's been there with me through a mob attack, a bullet wound, betrayal, near death, and a doctor walking away. He never left. He won't leave you either. Cry out to him. Not formal prayers. Not religious words. Just talk to him. Jesus, I need you. I can't do this alone. Help me. That's enough. That's all it takes. And he will answer. Maybe not the way you expect. Maybe not immediately. But he will show up. I stake my life on that promise. Because he's kept it for me over and over again. If you want to meet Jesus, if you want what I have, what Fatima has, what Dr. Hassan and Sheikh Gamal and 500 plus others have found, pray this with me right now. Jesus, I don't know if you're real. But I want to know. I'm tired of being empty. Tired of religion without relationship. Tired of trying to save myself. If you're truly the Son of God, if you truly died for my sins and rose from the dead, I'm asking you to save me. Forgive me. Come into my life. Make me new. I can't do this alone. I need you. I surrender. I believe. Save me. In your name, Jesus. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, welcome to the family. You're not alone anymore. You're a child of God now. You're saved. You're transformed. And your miracle story is just beginning. Jesus is not dead. He's alive. He's still performing miracles. Still saving people. Still showing up when you call his name. I'm alive because he refused to let me go. Dr. Hassan is saved because Jesus confronted him personally. Sheikh Gamal is transformed because Jesus appeared to him in the street. 500 plus Muslims have met Jesus because he proved over and over that he's real. And if he can do all of that for us, he can handle your problems. Your persecution. Your illness. Your depression. Your impossible situation. Your enemy. Your fear. He's bigger than all of it. So don't wait for a militia to surround you. Don't wait for fire. Don't wait until you're bleeding out on an operating table. Call on Jesus now. He's listening. He's waiting. And he will not let you go. I'm Marina Youssef. This is my story. And Jesus is the hero of it. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation, will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Romans 8 verses 38 to 39. If this story impacted you, share it. Someone in your life needs to hear it. Jesus is real.